Hey, how are my legacy leaders doing out there today? Wanted to come to you with another legacy leadership moment. Today we're going to be talking about step 6 in our empower method. But first, sorry for those of you all who may not know me, let me introduce myself. I'm Robert Heath Sr. I'm the CEO of Legacy Leadership Consulting, and I am the founder of the Legacy Empowerment Academy, where our goal is to change the world one legacy at a time. We help leaders to get the best out of their teams by clarifying their vision, communicating that vision, and then concentrating the efforts of their teams into laser focus. So I want to say hello to all of you out there. How you doing, Matthew? How you doing, Jeremiah? Thanks for tuning in. And what we want to do is talk about step 6 again. Step 6 today is to engage their inner problem solver. Again, the empower method is my 7 steps to get the best out of your team, no matter who you lead. And it's about making the transition from a executive leader to an empowering leader, all along the leader's way to legacy leadership. So we're going to talk today. I want to just kind of catch you up on what we've been talking about over the course of these videos. We've definitely talked about our first 5 steps. We'll just recap those really quickly. Step 1 is to examine and evaluate your expectations. We want to make sure that our expectations are reasonable in the short term, in the midterm, and the long term. We want to make sure that we're not failing before we start, if you would. Then we want to measure their expectations. One of the things that leaders have to be aware of is the fact that they hold the key to success for the people that they lead. Your people don't have an external arbiter of success. You are the person that determines whether this mission is a success or a failure. And so understanding that, it's very important to be clear with your people about when they are succeeding and what success actually means. Step 3, we want to properly delegate. So we want to make sure that we use the 5 principles of proper delegation: clarity, aspiration, inspiration, trust, and ownership. Then we want to make sure we've done EMP. We want to go to optimizing our environment for growth, right? We want to make sure that we're creating an environment where growth can happen. And that's an environment where people are not afraid to make mistakes, where we don't have a zero defect mentality, an environment where we invite transparency and vulnerability for our people to admit their mistakes, for us all to learn from those mistakes, and then for them to try again and to make sure that they're learning from everything that's happening, where we don't try for perfection, we try for excellence. And the difference between those two, if you remember, Aristotle talked about it. We are what we repeatedly do. Therefore, excellence is a habit rather than an act, right? So I want to welcome you all again. Thanks for tuning in. We're talking about the 6th step, step 6 of the empower method. And so we just went through the first 4. The last one is watch and learn. That was step 5, where we talk about how you supervise your people, how you implement your plan. And really that's the time where you're supposed to step back, and now you're learning from your people. You're seeing where your processes might need to be updated. You're seeing how your communication is going. You're seeing how well your teams work together, right? So now after you've done the work, there's a couple of other things that we need to talk about, and that's where step 6 comes in. Step 6 is about engaging their inner problem solver, right? And what we talk about when we're in the Marine Corps, when I was in the Marine Corps, one of the things that we always did, there's the mission, which was important, and we did all of the briefing and all of the planning and all the rest of that type of stuff. That's where our 6, mission leading steps were from, BAMSIS, and we finished up with supervise. But after every mission, there was an important part of that, which was called debriefing, and we did an after-action report. And the after-action report was crucial because it was the time for you to reflect on what worked and what didn't. Because one of the things that we understood in the Marine Corps and Marine Corps leadership is that you're not going to get it right all the time. Specifically because you generally don't have total information. You generally don't have all the information that you need. And so it's very difficult oftentimes to get everything right. And so it's important that you look back and you see what decisions you made, what things you were able to do, what things you weren't able to do, what things you saw, what mistakes you made, when you would have done things differently. That process, when you're a leader with your team, is extremely important that you realize three specific things. First of all, you have to trust the process, and this goes through all of the steps of legacy leadership, all the steps of empowering leadership. It's important that you trust the process. And here's the reason why. When we as leaders are fearful that our people won't reach success, then we start inserting ourselves and feeling like it's up to us to get them there. And I want you to take away that fear right now. The whole thing that you need to realize is that your people are much more capable than oftentimes our fearful subconscious mind gives them credit for. You put them on this team and you kept them on this team because you saw potential in them. You saw what they're capable of. And if you give them the space and the freedom to grow into their greatness, right? If we just facilitate that manifestation, they're going to get there. So first of all, just trust the process. And part of that trusting the process is trust them to be able to figure it out. Trust them to be able to get the right answers. Now, how do you help them to get to that place? That's where we get to the second part, right? The second level is that the leader's job is to take care of the people. And so I want you to pay attention that the way that you take care of your people is not by crippling them. It's not by giving them the answers. It's by asking them thought-provoking questions. Your job as the leader is to make sure that your team members are able to not only execute like you're able to execute, but to think and be able to make decisions like you're able to think and make decisions. Your goal is not just that they get the project done or that they get things right. Your goal is that they're able to make decisions without you there in the same way and looking at the same things that you would be able to look at, that they would see the same things, that they would not have blind spots that would cause them to miss things and cause them to fail. The way that you do that is by taking care of them, right? There's a quote from Jack Walsh that goes like this: when you are an employee, your job or your task is the work. But when you become a leader, your task becomes the people. And so it's very imperative that when you're working to engage their inner problem solver, that you're not trying to get them to get to a right answer. You're trying to take them through the process of finding the right answer. You're trying to make sure that they ask and answer the proper questions, that they consider the proper angles, that they look at the project and that they look at their mistakes from the proper perspective. And that perspective is one that doesn't have hubris. That perspective is one that recognizes that we can make mistakes. That perspective is one that recognizes that even if we made what we thought was the best decision at the time, it may not have been a good decision. And so we ask questions that probe and that are thought-provoking so that our people can learn and develop those critical thinking skills that are necessary. This is oftentimes one of the things that doesn't happen in our school to work pipeline. Oftentimes in school and in our training for jobs, premium is placed on getting the answer right. The premium isn't placed on how did we arrive at the answer, how did we think about it, what were the questions that we asked. And it's so important that you as an empowering leader focus on how the people arrive there. I remember when I was in math class and I used to hate it because the professors always used to make you show your work. And it was so frustrating because we were so focused in every other class on just doing it right, getting the right answer, getting the right answer, getting the right answer. And what they used to say so often is getting the right answer is not important. There's a lot of ways that you can get the right answer and not learn what you're supposed to be learning, not understanding the relationships that you're supposed to be understanding, not seeing the things that you're supposed to see. But when you show me your work, as the teacher, I can tell that your mind is thinking through the problem in the way that you should be thinking through the problem. So step 2 is really taking care of your people by engaging their inner problem solver through questioning and through taking them through the thought process that they need to be thinking through rather than trying to get them to say the right things, right? And so the last thing that we want to talk about is that you need to get your people to be able to optimize, or rather to maximize, the second chance. You need to maximize the learning opportunity when we make mistakes. So often mistakes are looked at as something to be feared, something to be avoided, something to be pushed under the rug, something that we don't own. And there's a lack of transparency that happens in the workplace when owners and leaders are not open and obvious with their mistakes. And so one of the things that I encourage you all to do when you're in these debriefing sessions is to talk about the times where you've made mistakes, where you thought things were wrong, where you were in the position that they were in, and how you came out of it. What are the things, what are the lessons that you learned? Because that transparency, what it does for them is it shows them the pathway forward. And it shows them that the pathway forward is not by acting as if nothing happened, or by, by scourging themselves and acting as if they were stupid, or there's something wrong with them because they made this mistake. The pathway forward is, and where they get there, is because they're able to see that even the best intended person is going to make mistakes, is not going to see something. But it's not about whether you fall down. It's about how you get back up and what you learn from the experience. So I want to close with a couple of words for you. And basically, I want you to know that by implementing this system, throughout the process of teaching and training your people, by engaging their inner problem solver, you begin step by step, day by day, to work yourself out of a job, which is what we want to do as an empowering leader, right? As you teach them how to think about problems, and more importantly, as they begin to see themselves solving problems without needing to go to you to get the answer, they come to rely on you less and less, and they come to believe in their own power, in their own greatness more and more. This, coupled with the work that you've done in the previous steps to build their trust in you, to create a safe environment, to protect them from catastrophic failure, and to change the way that they relate failure and success, right? Instead of fearing failure, we realize that failure is a stepping stone towards success. This will make your team more comfortable with working outside of their permission boxes. It will make them more comfortable taking initiative. It will make them more comfortable stepping outside of their comfort zone. Right? They will begin to see themselves and to trust themselves, to see themselves as capable, and to trust themselves to do the job well. They will begin to take inspired action that comes to them when they see something that they can solve. They will also anticipate the next steps because they've worked with you enough and developed their critical thinking skills enough that they can have confidence that they are seeing the problem the way that you would see it as the leader, or at least in a way that is consistent with your values and your vision. And this is where you begin to get the exponential growth from your team, because now they're able to start thinking and pushing the vision forward, and you don't have to be the force, right? This is where we begin to make that transition from potential energy to kinetic energy, and the chain reaction goes, and inertia starts working for us instead of against us, right? So thank you all for tuning in. I want you to remember, at all times, we're trying to empower our people. We're trying to manifest that greatness that is within them. We are the facilitators of that pathway. There's one more step we're going to talk about, the Empower Step 7, in the next video. And I want to thank you all for tuning in this far. Remember, you can catch us on the Legacy Leadership Podcast. We're on Tuesday nights from 9 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time, and that'll be moving to Wednesdays in Season 2, but right now we're on Tuesdays. And then you can also go to the Legacy Leaders Facebook group so that you can get more videos and more information like this. And so help us over at Legacy Leadership Consulting. Go like the page and tune into what we do so that you can become a legacy leader and help to change the world one legacy at a time. And remember to live every day like it was on purpose. Have a great one.